Embarrassing news on the Nick Rekieta front today. What is it called? The dismissal has been denied, right? Nick Rekieta versus Montograph, right? The big lawsuit concerning Nick Rekieta right now, like his defamation thing against Montograph, or rather Montograph's defamation thing against him has been the dismissal for it has been denied. I think what Nick was trying to do was trying to get this thing to be thrown out before it got to court. And as we all suspected it might happen, it did get denied, right? Rekieta was like screwed up so badly that he hired the most notorious free speech lawyer in the country, Mark Randazza. He tried getting this thing like straight up dismissed. You know, he's paid like probably tens of thousands of dollars at this point, maybe more, on this lawsuit for this like high profile attorney. He specifically wanted the specific result that he wanted to dance all over Monograph's like dead lawsuit. And what happens? He ends up getting embarrassed in the most ridiculous way possible. Like, I would like to remind everyone, going into this, that Rekieta has spent the past several months, I think, since this lawsuit took off, right? Like assuring everyone, like, oh, this is a frivolous lawsuit. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to get dismissed right out of the gate. And I, personally, and I'm sure several other people, like, kind of acknowledge that might not be the case. We might actually see this go somewhere. We might actually see this get taken to court and be taken seriously by the judge and the people he's interacted with, people he knows, people in his local area. I believe like the judge who's overseeing the case has met him before. David Schneider knows him personally. They've had interactions before. Like, Rekieta has like done everything wrong in this situation, right? He's talked about the case on the internet, right? He's disparaged like the legal team from the opposition, the judge, like everyone involved. He keeps doing live streams attacking the defendant. Like, so instead of like really taking this seriously, like, really understanding that like this is a legal battle and he needs to be responsible with like the proceedings. He needs to like stay silent about certain things. He needs to like respect like the needs of like his defense team. Like he's openly said that he's gone against like the requests of Randazza, right? Because they've told him like, you can't go out and keep calling Montograph a pedophile. Like, it's Nick's go-to defense that like, oh, everything I do is protected by free speech. This is about to be like challenged in court. And I legitimately believe he is going to get wrecked. Right? We are seeing the downfall of Nick Rekieta play out in real time right now, live on Rekieta Law, on Monograph's channel. The big YouTube lawsuit of the year, if not like the next 5 years, right? Like, I cannot think of a bigger fall from grace than Nick Rekieta's, right? This is why Rekieta retardation is a thing. This is why I'm constantly talking about it. This is why, like, I won't shut up about it, right? Like, this downfall in about 5 years, like, this cycle has been an absolute delight to watch, right? And it's only going to get worse from here, right? What's going to happen after this? Like, Rekieta's, okay, like, assuming this lawsuit proceeds, right, at the very least, Rekieta is going to be at like tens of thousands of dollars, right? Because he's still hiring Randazza. He still has to like pay this, top tier attorney for this proceeding. He still has to like maintain this, like, probably realistically for the next next year, maybe 2 years? Like, I don't know how long these kind of things will last, but like, it's going to be a while, right? It's going to be like 2 more years of this. We're going to see like Nick like begging for money. His audience is going to dry up. Like, more and more people are going to start turning on him. Like, the Coomers are going to start calling him out for being boring and stale. Like, even already, like, in this early stage, people are getting tired of Kumalai. They're getting tired of Drexel. They're getting tired of like just the nonstop sex talk and degeneracy, right? People are beginning to notice things. People are beginning to like point out things like discrepancies in like Nick's story, like his background. Like, people are realizing that like, maybe I shouldn't give this guy money. Right? Especially now that he's not actually covering legal topics in any capacity. Like, he had like the opportunity to be like the biggest legal channel on YouTube, right? Like he absolutely did that. I said that like he could have been like bigger than Rogan. Maybe that's a stretch, right? I don't know what Rogan's numbers are. Like he has all those celebrities and connections. He's like most shilled podcast in the world. I hate Joe Rogan, but like, Rekieta could, at the very least, have like dominated the legal sphere, right? He could have had that market cornered. He could have been the guy to handle this kind of thing, but he let it all slip through his fingers because he didn't want to do the work. Rekieta hasn't worked a day in his life, and he's not going to start now. Unbelievable. And his refusal to like make any changes, to acknowledge that he's doing anything wrong, to like, to acknowledge like the needs and desires of his audience, like acknowledge like the very real feedback from people like Cody Bear, I think his name is, which is bizarre because Bear was actually going to be like was a considered pen name for me at one point. Really weird that somebody else in this sector has like the same whatever. I'm glad I went with like something else, but like people like that, people, I'm sure there are like several others. I don't know how like close Alyssa Clips was to him or like what she's doing. Like, people like that, people in law spheres, people in like Rekieta, like even Null, okay, Null, the ultimate nose guard, like even that guy is like coming out and saying that like, it's kind of looking a little bit rough there, buddy. Maybe you should think about pulling up a little bit, like a full year. Almost a year after everyone else on his forum like started saying the same thing, even Null has to like acknowledge there's something up with this, right? Like even Null is acknowledging there's a problem at this stage. That's how bad things have gotten, right? Like even Nick's like most fervent defenders are just gone. And like the only people left are like holdovers from like the Johnny Depp trial and just, people who are just fanatically loyal to Nick, right? Like I think the anime audience has left. I was told by someone in my comment section that like Raging Golden Eagle has distanced himself from him, but like I'm gonna press X to doubt him. I mean, I haven't seen any confirmation to that. That's what I was told, but I'm not sure if that's true or not, right? I don't know like the specifics of like what everyone's doing. I don't want to like accuse anyone of doing anything, but like I will say that like I've seen very few people like openly talk about Nick's decline, right? Like until it becomes cool and trendy to do so, which I think will happen in like the next 6 months as this lawsuit proceeds. I do expect this lawsuit, specifically this lawsuit, the one with Montograph, to be like kind of the death nail for this channel because like he's lost all of his credibility at this point. Like he had this case that he should have like handled professionally and he just tossed it out the window because he just wanted to be ridiculous. He wanted to be a Coomer. He wanted to like say whatever he wanted about like other lawyers, judges, people who are more competent at the job than he is. Like he thought he was invincible. Like he thought like, that scene in The Matrix where like the CEO of that like tech company is talking to like Tom Anderson, Neo, and he's just like, Mr. Anderson, the rules don't apply to you. Rekieta saw that like you think the rules don't apply to you. Excuse me, I screwed up the crow. Rekieta saw that scene and he's just like, oh man, Neo, he's literally me. Like it's like the same mindset, right? He thinks he's like above it all. Like he thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he's protected by like free speech, unless you like shit talk him, in which he can like, banhammer you in like an instant, right? I can't imagine like if like what he's been saying about like some of his critics behind closed doors that hasn't like leaked out yet, because I've seen like the pushback that people like myself get from his community for like acknowledging these issues, right? Like it does feel like there is like a certain amount of goodwill left among like his hardcore fans, but like I really have to wonder how long that's gonna last. Because like I think being involved in this lawsuit, being like the center of attention, like people can't write off his inadequacies as just being due to like simply like say not being Vic's lawyer, for example, right? Not being like directly involved in the case, like not having all the information, not being present at the trial, like or more recently, like not having all the facts, right? Like people kept making excuses for him. I made excuses for him at one point, and it's something I've I'm ashamed of and repent for every day. It's the reason Rekieta retardation exists. So more people don't fall for like the grift, the lies, the scam that is Nick Rekieta, Rekieta Law, the law channel that doesn't actually cover legal topics. like again, it's a warning, right? Like it is an explanation as to how like I was tricked, countless others were tricked into like following this like law channel, like expecting expecting this guy Nick to like cover Johnny Depp, to cover Vic, to like Vic Mignogna, to cover like these weird obscure internet topics, to go into like more intense like crazy areas of law, to like recruit other people into like this sphere, like get a cool like internet club going of like actual practicing attorneys that talk about like real world cases and like how it affects us, like the individual, preserving our freedoms, like, going up against like corruption, getting people, like educating people about things that the government is doing right now to try and take your rights away. And like, I still to this day, like very strongly believe that, there was a very real possibility for Nick Rekieta to do something like truly great. Right. Like I will always maintain that, like, I do think in a lot of ways, like, Vic Mignogna, like in that community, like, if, that early, talking about like, false rape allegations, for example, like, I remember being younger, reading about like Mattress Girl, like this is like a decade ago at this point. I feel like such a boomer talking about this. I remember reading about Mattress Girl, the girl who was raped on campus and who carried around a mattress to show her pain to the world. And then, of course, you actually get to the trial and it's revealed that like, the guy has receipts. She desperately wanted him and she desperately wanted it again. And after he wasn't interested, she just came up with the false rape allegations, right? I was aware of that. But whenever you would bring that up to people back in the day, people would just kind of laugh at you or call you conspiratorial or whatever. Post Amber Heard, like post Johnny Depp, like that's over, right? And like it's not really a thing that's really happening anymore because like, guys are prepped for this. They have the receipts. Lawyers are like becoming specialized in this topic. It's becoming like a known to be an issue. Like the Anita Sarkeesian take like from a decade ago, like, oh, believe all women. That's not something that anybody says anymore, is it? Because the facts don't always line up with what women say. Women can lie. And like, I think there was like a certain amount of wisdom in like talking about like these kind of topics. You're like, there was an appeal in talking to Drexel about this kind of stuff. Like there was like a time when like it was interesting and funny to like talk about like, sex talk and degeneracy and some of the weird stuff that people are into. Like there was like a time and place for that. But in the current year, like right now, that isn't the case. Like it's over, right? Like he needs to move on to something else. Like he needs to like kind of just grow up, acknowledge that he has real adult responsibilities and that he's running a YouTube channel that's meant to appeal to like a mass audience. Otherwise, he is going to shrivel up and die. And we are seeing that happen real time right now with this lawsuit. This is, I think, going to completely destroy Nick Rekieta in the long run.